This is the daily writing exercise recorded, day 49, titled Arbutus. Well, folks, Sheriff Langdon said, that's about it. If you don't find a way to raise some money, the town will have to shut down by the end of the month. Sheriff Langdon stood in front of the entire population of Riverwood, which as of last week was about 34 people. 2 of them had left last week, one of them being Mrs. Hubble, who passed away at the age of 94. The other being Peter Grove, who at the age of 22 decided to join the army after all, with no intentions of coming back. The remaining 34 were in trouble. Their population was aging and the town derelict, with no money to fix either problem. So a meeting was called. A meeting that had been called almost every single year over the past 20 years. They all saw it coming. The changing of times, the modernization of the world, the interconnectivity of it all, and the lack of upward mobility in a town where the job prospect essentially ensured that the town's money just circulated amongst its population, until that too became too expensive, and they all in the end were forced to rely on the superstore an hour or two away from their actual homes. Those were conversations of sore memories, as many of the older folks reminisced on their ability to walk to the store, and were now forced to rely on the kindness of others to do their shopping for them. So a plan had to be devised. Heads were put together. It was important after all. Their town was at stake here, but no one had any answers. Not even Sheriff John Langdon, who did not even live in the town, but who was responsible for it. If it was up to him, they would all move. Getting to the town was a hassle, and he preferred to narrow down his area of responsibilities. Not that anything really ever happened in Riverwood, but with the lack of any other political figure, it was up to the sheriff to do most of the politicking, which was not something John Langdon signed up for when he joined the police academy. The matter though was delicate. He could not force the people to leave, or give them the slightest inclination that he might want them to do so. He would have to be tactful and let things run their course, albeit a bit faster with his gentle push behind it. His antics had resulted in a large array of minor things occurring in the past few weeks. One day certain produce would not be available in the superstore. The other day water from the water tower would be foul and had to be refreshed. The goods were delivered a day late and the mill even came a week later. These were all minor things, little things the town folk had endured before. Sheriff Langdon just made sure to remind them of it all a bit more frequently, and called it a changing of the time whenever someone asked him about it. One of the major things he made sure to do was to stop the mail from being delivered directly. It did not take much convincing the regional postmaster Hendrik to do so, and from then on in, all mail had to be picked up from a nearby town an hour away. Townfolk bemoaned the change, but had no choice to agree with it. The same went for the gas and electric company slowing down their services, as did the cable company as it turned out one fateful afternoon, when the satellite signal was disturbed for over a week, which really led to some of the more older townfolk to revolt, and the sheriff was happy to see it. The only and perhaps biggest issue was despite having a wish to leave, many simply couldn't. They were old and had no family. They certainly had no money, and their houses were effectively worthless. So moving was not an option for them, and the sheriff came to realize this perhaps a bit too late. It was around the same time he was messing with the satellite signals that Mrs. Tinsel came to him for advice on the matter. She wanted to continue living in Riverwood, but felt that she, with her declining health, ought to live closer to her caretaker. She wondered if he could help her move, but could not promise him any money in doing so. She also said he could have her house if he wanted to, seeing as there surely would be no one there to purchase it from her. Sheriff Langdon agreed and helped her move out. The empty house remained behind as a stark reminder of the problems he was facing. In helping her move, Sheriff Langdon became intimately aware of Mrs. Tinsel's financial situation and quickly came to the conclusion she stood no chance in the outside world, and seriously questioned how she managed to survive for so long. Truth came out a week later when the news arrived that she had died after having been thrown out of the nursing home she had been forced to move into. Her one night outside on the street had done her in. Sheriff Langdon held back on his antics ever since, and for a while there actually tried to see if there was anything he could do to help the town. But no matter how much he looked, no matter how many people he interviewed, it all seemed to end up with nothing. They had to move. There really seemed to be no other option. And so in reality, they had to come to terms with death. The ordinance had come up from high, and in no small part due to the Sheriff Langdon's actions. Riverwood and its surrounding areas would no longer be serviced by the gas and electric company. That, in essence, was their death sentence. The sheriff and fire department, and even the medical services equally, had decided to no longer service the area. That and all together really firmly put a death sentence on the town. No more has been written or recorded. Thank you for listening. Yeah, I know this one wasn't that great or good or fantastic, but I wrote something, so sue me.